Assalamu alaikum. Today our topic is bill of exchange and promissory note. So first we will discuss a promissory note. That what is promissory note? So promissory note is a negotiable instruments. Negotiable here means that such an instrument whose ownership is transferable from one person to another person, that is called negotiable instruments. So first one, promissory note is a negotiable instruments where one party make an unconditional promise in written form to pay the specified sum of money to other party at the specified date. Promissory note we can simply define as that a written promise between two parties in which one party make the promise to pay a specific sum of the money on the specified future date. Such promise is called promissory note. Either at a fixed or determinable future times or on demand of the payee under the specific terms and conditions. Look at promissory note that taken place between two parties. One is called maker or issuer and second one is called payee. So a maker make a promise to pay a specific sum of money in the specified future date to pay. So a written promise between the maker and payee in which maker or issuer make the promise to pay a specific sum of money on determined future date to pay. So that written promise is called promissory note. Dear students, the promissory note sometimes refers to as a note payables. That is a legal instruments, more particularly a financial instruments and a debts instruments, in which one party, the maker or issuer, promises in written to pay the specific sum of money to the other party payee, either at a fixed or determinable future time, or on the demand of the payee under the specific terms and conditions. Sometimes payee demand. Time is not specified in the promissory note. So when the payee demands, so maker will make arrangement of the payments to payee. And sometimes date is specified in the promissory note. So when that maturity date comes, so maker is liable to make payments to payee. A negotiable instruments is a documents which is guaranteeing the payments of a specific amount of a money, either on demand or at a set time, whose pair is usually named on the documents. Look at a promissory note is a legally binding promise of the payments occasionally that is refers to as a note payables. They are used to document and legally formalize the terms of the loan. So they are details such as the amount and the deadlines for the payments are included in the promissory loan. Dear students, promissory notes can be used for both personal and business loans and are a flexible way to specify how the loan will be repaid. For example, by a certain date, in installments or on demand, you can define the terms of the loan to fit with your business requirements. Unlike the LC, letter of credits, the promise of the payments is unconditional. This promissory note is an unconditional promise. Clear? There should be no conditions that are included, regardless of what happens between the borrower and the lenders. Even if the agreed services or contract did not occur, the amount details in the note must still be paid. Clear? Now, the questions come in a mind that either this is a written promise, so either that will be secure or not. So generally, dear students, keep in mind that promissory note are unsecured, which means it is more like a formal IOU. However, lenders can request some security for the loan. For personal secured promissory notes, a house or a car is often used as a collateral security. For business companies, car or offices can also be offered as a promissory note. Like look at me and you people that are engaged in the credit transactions. You are the lenders and I am the borrowers. It means that you are pay and I am maker. So I make credit purchases from you, I take some loan from you. So I issued a promissory note to you. So you can also claim to secure this, to secure your transaction. What you also, when I issue a promissory note to you, so with that you also ask from some security, like my car documents, my business documents, my land documents, my some other asset documents. Clear? But this is not necessary. So for the security of the promissory note, so for those business who are extended the credit, especially the small one business, so it is important to check that the collateral offer is of the same value of the loan or less than the loan value. It is also important, dear students, to check that the same collateral hasn't been used to secure other promissory note as well. As look at, I make a promissory note with you and you ask for the security and I give in security my land documents. So you can check it out that either these documents is also not given against the other promissory note to someone else. Correct? Now, this is a symbol of a promissory note. Promissory note may be like this one. This is the specimen of the promissory note. So look at promissory note. A basic promissory note will generally include the following informations, although other terms and conditions can also be added. For example, name of the lenders and borrowers, address of the borrowers. Number third, amount of money borrowed, how much money that is borrowed. Number fourth, length of the loan period, means time period. Number fifth, whether you will charge interest and what is the rate. If sometimes promissory note, the interest amount is also specified. Yeah, the rate of the interest is also specified. So at which rate the lender will charge the interest against the promissory note amount, so that rate should be specified in the promissory note. Keep in mind. Okay. Sixth one point that should be included in the promissory note, that is defaulting on loan and penalty informations. That if the issuer that become defaulters or they not pay the promissory note on time, so what will be the penalty? So the penalty informations that some will also be given in the promissory note. Next one, type is the informations that should be given, whether it is secured or unsecured. It means that, look at, if I issued a promissory note to you without any security, means I neither give you the documents of the land, the documents of the building, the documents of the my business, or even other security, any type of the security. So that should be mentioned that this is an unsecured promissory note. And if I have given you some security against that promissory note, so that will be mentioned in the promissory note, that this promissory note is secured against land, building, documents, vehicles, etc. and etc. That should be mentioned. Then signatures and witnesses signature. Signature of the issuer and also the witnesses signature, that should be included in the promissory note. So dear students, promissory note are very basic, and although they can include the terms and conditions, they tends to be brief in the length. So generally they do not need nor do they need to be recorded, which makes them cost effective. So it is advisory, however, to consult with a lawyer if you include the terms and conditions. So if the amount being borrowed is for a large sum, in a too much huge amount, or if you are committing to a secured promissory note, so rules and regulations regarding promissory note is different for each country, according to each country terms and conditions for the promissory notes and rules and regulations that are changed. Clear? Now The parties that are involved in the promissory note. So, two parties that are involved in the promissory note: the maker or drawer, and second one is the payee. Maker or drawer: the person or business who issue the promissory note, that is called maker or drawer. Or simply, in simple words, we can say that the borrower is called maker or drawer. The payee. Pay means the persons to whom or the business to whom the promissory note amount should be paid back. That person or business is called payee. Look it. If I make a credit purchases, you are suppliers, and I make a credit purchases from you of $1 lakh, and I issue a promissory note that I will return this $1 lakh after 30 days. Look at, I am a borrower. Yeah, if I take $1 lakh loan from you and I issued a promissory note that I will return this money after 60 days. Now I issued the promissory note. So I am maker or drawer. To whom I issue this? To you people. So you are called payee. Why? I will make payments of this $1 lakh in future with interest amount. So that should also be mentioned. Like I take a loan of $1 lakh with 15% interest rate. So keep in mind, two parties are involved, no third party involvement here. The drawer and the payee are the maker and payee. Maker is the issuer and payee is the persons to whom payment should be made. So maker or drawer is simply called the borrowers of the money, and payee is the lender of the money. Clear now? Okay. What are the features of the promissory note? So promissory note have the following features. It must be in the written form. Keep in mind that promissory note, that should not be a verbal promise, that must be a written promise. As you see in the specimen here, look at I, Jane Monroe, do promises to pay City Finance Company the sum of $50,000. Repayment is to be made in the form of 300 equal payments at 6% interest, or 322.15 payables on the first date of each month, and payment should be beginning from 8th of January 2005 until the total debts is satisfied, until the total debt is paid. So look at here, the borrower, Janie, make the written promise that he will repay back this $50,000 in 300 equal payments with 6% interest, or will pay $322.15 at every first date of each month to until this $50,000 plus 6% interest is not satisfied. So look at, this is not a verbal promise. Why? This is a written promise. Here the promise is written on a, and signature is also there. So these first one features or property that promissory note that should be in the written form. Number 2, the promise to pay must be expressed. When the maker make the promise, so promise should be expressed. How? Like this one. Here this is clearly the repayment schedule that is expressed, that this $50,000 and 6% interest on this $50,000 will be paid by Mr. Jane, the maker, in 3 equal payments, 300 equals payment. Or this is expressed that every month Jane will make payment of $322.15 to pay. So promise is expressed here. Got this point? Okay. Third one point, features of the promissory note is that the promise to pay must be unconditional. There should be no condition involved. Clear? So payments promise in the promissory note, that will be unconditional. As we discussed in the definition of the promissory note, that unconditional promise from the side of makers or from the side of issuer or from the side of the drawers, that is also called drawers, to make a specific sum of money to pay. So according to the definition of the promissory note, that maker, drawer or issuer will make an unconditional promise. There should be no conditions in the promises. If conditions are comes, so then that will not be called a promissory note. Fourth one, features of the promissory note is it must be signed by the maker. Who issue the promissory note? So signature of issuer is mandatory, means that signature of the borrower is mandatory. Why? Look at, if I issue a promissory note to you and my signature is not on that promissory note, so maybe in the future I will say that this is not my promissory note, I not issue it. You don't have any proof. That's why signature on promissory note from the side of issuer is mandatory. The maker must be certain. Maker, look at here. Who issued this promissory note? Jane. So Jane is called maker, or this is called issuer, this is also called drawer. So the name of that person is also mandatory. Who will issue? It's clear, specified. So in the promissory note, the name of the issuer must be mandatory, must be over there, must be noted, must be written. in the promissory note. Then let's suppose if I issue a promissory note to you people, so I will write that I, Mr. Asad, do promises that I will return your $1 lakh with 10% interest in 2 months. Total by total amount I will pay in 2 months, and I will also make a signature here. Clear? So the maker must be certain. Maker must be certain means the name of the maker, the name of the issuer must be written in the promissory note. Next one, features of the promissory note, that the promise must be to pay a certain sum. The sum of the money, how much we are returns, that will also be mentioned in the promissory note. Look at here. Sum of the money. How much money we are returns? Look at total 50,000 we will returns in 300 equal payments, or per month we will pay 322. So the sum of the money that should be mentioned in the promissory note. Here the sum of the money is 50,000. Clear? That should be mentioned. Promise must be to pay a certain sum of the money. The promise should be to pay money and money only, nothing else. In the promissory note, we just only, the maker will make the promise to pay back the money only. Keep in mind. Clear? No, nothing else promise that should be mentioned in the promissory note. The last one features, the payee must be certain to whom the money should be paid. That person or that business is called payee. So that should also be mentioned in the promissory note, that to whom we will return back the money. Here look at in the promissory note, Janie or Jane, that is what? That is issuer. And here City Finance Company, that is payee. Jane will make payments to City Finance Company. So these was the features of the promissory note. So hope you will understand. The remaining parts we will discuss in our upcoming class.